They didn't just sit around and wait for something to happen. They made it happen, and that's an important message I think they have to deliver. Their specifics are going to be educational, but they didn't just sit down and wait. They took action. So I would like to reintroduce Shannon and Quin, and they started Ted's program recently. What they did was they didn't just sit around and wait for something to happen. They took action and learned from Ted's material.
We're really psyched to be here, and I really wanted to thank Ted for inviting us down to speak, because we're just really grateful for Ted's program. Quin is my son. I have 3 kids. Quin's the youngest. I'm grandmother of 2.5, and just at that point of life where things really changed for us. I was in quite a high-risk business before. It's called agriculture. And so lost everything, actually, at one point. So when we went to the seminar with, and first met up with Ted in Lethbridge, and he talked about how he had been doing really well and lost everything, and then determined that what he would do next would be something with low risk. Then he had my attention.
Our family's invested in all kinds of things to make money, and we could see that the potential here for making money was really endless. To have some investment and then to be doubling our money, that we would be able to work for ourselves and make an unlimited amount of money. I come from a horse trading background, so I know the principle of buying low and selling high. So the idea of buying low and selling low means that you could have more sales in a certain length of time than if you were waiting for the high price. So I really like the idea of having multiple sales. And so then just going from deal to deal to deal means you multiply your input exponentially.
So it wasn't until November that I signed up for coaching. And then, of course, and Bill is my coach, so we're thrilled about that. It worked out really, it's been working really well. And then I found out that the next possible auction, not the only one, but bigger one, was King County, was coming up December 19th. So I looked at that, looked at my schedule, looked at how many, okay, so I've been a teacher, but because of financial stuff, blah, 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 I was working in an office job. And in that office job, when you're not your own boss, you have to ask for vacation days. And in order to even to get to King County, I had to ask for vacation days. So I didn't have enough. So 2 or 3 weeks after I started coaching, I quit my job so that I could do research. And I know that Bill did not really recommend that.
Think of what that did to me. Now it's like my fault. So.
I take responsibility. So then I had energy and time to do more research, because of what I found was I was staying up till like 2 in the morning doing research for this, because I'm kind of a perfectionist.
We had investments from our daughter, our mother-in-law, and so there was this encouragement coming up, and Quin was all on board, and he said that he would go. My husband couldn't, and he works away from home 3 weeks of the month, and the whole scheme is that to make enough income so that he doesn't have to work away from home. So we had a big why. A big why, are we going to do this? It's to make enough money for Stan to be able to live at home and work at home instead of work away. And ultimately not have a job, but to be self-employed. We started out with like over 100 properties in the sale. We started out with about 19 potentials. And then by the end of our research and kind of looking at what can we look at in a day, we thought, okay, we'll try to do these 10 or 12.
One thing about the Canadian folks I want to say is that really important to know the rules of what the county wants, how they want you to handle the money. And we did the cashier's checks and cash. So, and in the cashier checks in different denominations. So at the border, was kind of nervous at the border. And it was absolutely no worries. We told him exactly what we had. We had less than $10,000 of cash, and the majority was in the cashier's checks. And the guy at the gate, he said, well, just a minute, and he had to go check his rules with somebody else. He's like, no, you're good to go. And they're like, whew, that was easy. So I'm just telling you again, you may have heard it from another source, but again, if you just follow the rules, and cashier's checks work really well at the border, so no worries that way.
You only have so much money to spend when you first start getting into this business, and so you don't want to mess up. Everybody knows about risk, and they don't want to lose their shirt or lose the money that they've worked, maybe $15 an hour job or $20 an hour job, whatever it is, I can relate to that. I don't want to lose any money. And so we were extra careful, let me tell you, and of course we realized later that we were too careful. But it's, for us as new beginners, I'd recommend the first projects, just research the heck out of them. And so that's what we did. So we brought down 200 properties down to 19.
So we mapped out, Quin helped with the mapping out on the computer where we're going to go, and mapped out, going to try to see these on that day. So we had a index card that we wrote the parcel number down, and then as we went to each parcel, we took a picture of that index card, and then we took pictures of the property after that.
The night before also we had about 19 properties, like you say, but some of those properties, about 9 of them I guess it was, people did come in and pay the taxes on them, so then we knew we just had the 10 to look at, and that's the 10 that we covered that day.
We kept looking at the list every morning before we went to do, so that we knew what's left. One of the first ones we went to, there was this old fellow walking along with his dog, and we were looking at this lot that was opposite his property, and Quin said, we should talk to him. And I said, no. He goes, yeah, I'm going to. So we walked over and started talking to him, and then
I just found that people were the best resource for us. Online was good too, and things, but what came down to was people on the ground a little bit, and talking to them, and there's other ways to do it, I'm sure, but for us as new beginners, that's what we did. We talked to a lot of people, a lot of neighbors, and found people were friendly in that area, and we got a lot of our answers. Lots of times we just found out the first one, it was a couple parcels of land that I believe it was, there just wasn't enough land that was the land was kind of sloped into kind of swampy area, and it wasn't buildable basically, even though it kind of told us that it was buildable on the website, on the town website. We found out that no, you won't be able to do it.
And there was something about perking.
Yeah.
He particularly knew that it hadn't
passed the perk test in order to qualify for building on that.
Totally unseen information, wouldn't have known that otherwise.
That's right. Perk system is something that's there to make sure that you can put a septic tank or some kind of sewage system on the property.
Then the next time another person came out, so we actually started kind of waiting and looking for a neighbor to come out. And on another property, we found out that even though it didn't say anything about environmental issues on the King County website, there was a huge environmental issue, and the neighbor told us that someone had, like a previous owner, had been storing gas barrels there or something, and it was a huge issue. And he himself, as a neighbor, was having huge issues with the county. This is part of Federal Way, and that were 6 years later, he was still having trouble resolving. And so because that was not, I hadn't found it on the website, we were so astonished because it was a nice looking property, great location, and we thought this would be one we were very interested in until we talked to him, and then we knew to take that off our list.
I know that there have been more than one way to find out that info, but for us as new beginners, that's how we found out. I think other times we'd have the experience of dealing with that specific city and kind of know those kind of regulations, but with us, we lucked out a little bit with that area. But
what the great thing about real estate is to me, there is no risk. There isn't. If you do your research, that's what it comes down to. For me, it's something that's predictable, like a lot of guys say, and it's not stocks, it's different. You can do the research behind it. I just know that if I'm going to a lot or a house, especially a lot though, I'll just give you that example, if all the cars are shiny in the area you're going to buy in, everybody's driving the new Volkswagen or whatever, you know, it's a start. And our lot, for instance, we looked at 2 different lots. And the reason we ranked one lot over the other was because driving into the place, the houses in the one area were 1960s, 1950s or older. And they just weren't, you know, Bill talks about curb appeal and stuff like that. You guys already got down about that. But mainly you just kind of look for properties that I always like to put myself in the other guy's shoes that's going to buy this property off of me. What kind of guy is going to buy it? Is it going to be a doctor or going to be somebody that's going to want to work in this area, kind of a town kind of person? Or you always look at the next step. You know, you try to put yourself in the other person's shoes that's going to come to the property.
At the end of the day, we worked really late doing more research, and so that we were up late when the county computer updated what was going to be available at the sale. A lot of people weren't going to know until they got to the sale what's on the list. But because we were up past midnight and it uploaded, we knew we only had 4. But it felt so good because we had a plan in place. We knew before we went to bed that we only had 4, and we knew exactly what our bid was going to be and how far up to what percentage we were going to be bidding. So we didn't go to bed. Quin was really good about that. We're not going to, you know, we have to get this plan in place, and it's kind of exhausting. You look at all these places, and then you have to do all this mind work to get it figured out, but it felt really good to have that plan.
It made the auction really easy. You went to the auction, you're prepared. It wasn't something you had to become smart to the auction and do a bunch of thinking on what you're going to do and not do. You already knew. You just raised your hand up to your price, and that's it. Made it simple. I was really happy that we had been on the website past midnight to see which properties had been taken off of the list, because everybody else, it seemed like, or a lot of people were surprised when somebody came in and paid off their taxes on those properties. But we'd already knew that, and so we didn't have to worry about any of our properties getting scratched off, really.
They were at the back of the room checking the list and double checking theirs, and we just were able to relax.